All right, so this is just a brief example video of a teaching, something similar to what you'll do this module. I'm identifying my audience, and I'm here at my brother at his home, and I've got some children that are here as my class. How old are you?
8.
How old are you?
7.
7.
10.
10.
9.
And 9. And I'd like to teach, ultimately, the topic is the 4 faculties of the human person. So Catholic anthropology. Are you ready? Okay. I'm curious, how do you know that dinosaurs existed? Ooh, I saw Jude's hand first.
Because there's dino bones in the museum.
That's correct. And what are those called? Raise your hand if you know.
Fossils.
Raise your hand if you know.
Fossils.
Elliot. Good job. They're called fossils. Well, I want to tell you a brief story about a scientist. Her name was Margaret Mead. And someone once asked her, what is the first sign that you've ever seen, the oldest and first sign of human life? And do you know what she said? She said, let me show you a picture and I'll tell you. And the picture was?
A dinosaur.
Not a dinosaur
A
bone.
monkey.
Not a monkey bone. Juliana.
An incorrupt person.
Not an incorrupt person. That's a good guess. Instead, let me tell you. Let me tell you. She showed those persons who were asking the first sign of human life. She showed them a large femur bone, but it wasn't a normal bone. It was a bone that had been cracked and then it had healed. Now, here's why she showed them that. She said, if you want to see the first sign of human life, you need to see a bone that's been broken but healed again. Why? Because, she said, it's a sign of human love and mercy. You see, before humans existed, if an animal would break their bone, especially a big important bone like this, they'd usually be left for dead. Or they wouldn't be able to eat and gather food and hunt.
And then they would die.
And then they would die. But human beings have this unique nature to us that we want to love like God loves. And so a healed bone is an example of human love and mercy for someone else. Yes?
I thought it was a monkey bone because some people believe that humans first started as monkeys.
That's true. However, we know there's something different about human beings. That they have this gift, and the gift is to be able to love.
But I don't.
Yes?
It's your soul.
That's awesome. Well done. It's true. It's your soul. So I want to tell you a little bit more about what makes us different. And I want to use a helper. Have you guys, just raise your hand, if you've heard of Saint Augustine. Ooh, good. Great. You can sit now. So Saint Augustine had this wonderful way of teaching us about what makes us different than animals and what things we have in common with animals. Now, wait for your question because I want to show you how he would teach it. All right? Now, for this example, you need to have your hands free. Are you ready? Okay. St. Augustine said that our bodies are like a visual aid to help us understand who we are as human beings. And something, just a minute, and something he called the 4 faculties. All right? So, he said, first, we've got an intellect. And then we've got a will. Okay?
Atoms.
Then he said we also have what are called passions. Those are like feelings or emotions. And he'd point to the stomach for the passions. Have you ever felt angry?
Yes, I've been.
Have you ever? Yeah. Have you ever? Sometimes people will say that person had a fire in their belly, right? Or have you ever felt nervous? Sometimes people will say my tummy got tight when I got nervous. So he would point to the passions in the belly. And then, finally, he would point at the loins, which is like right here. And he'd say, that's like your senses. Imagine if you were a Ninja Turtle and one of the foot soldiers or Shredder punched you right there. It would hurt really bad, right? Because it's something that would be sensitive. So he said the 4 faculties of the human person are the intellect, the will, the passions, and the senses. Now, can you remember? Where's your intellect? Point at it. Don't say anything, just point. Where did he say your intellect is? Good. Where did he say your will is found in this aid? That's right, your heart. Okay, and it's the heart. And then next he said the passions. In the belly, that's right. And then you don't have to point for the next one, but he said the loins were the senses. So your intellect is made to know the good. Whatever God has designed as good. Your intellect is to discover and to know what's good. And then point at your will. Where's your will? Right here. That's
your heart.
And that's to choose what's good. All right, so repeat after me. The intellect. Yeah, that's true. Can you repeat after me? The intellect is to know the good. Try it.
The intellect is to know the good.
That's right. And the will is to choose the good.
And the will is to choose the good.
Okay, now can you sit crisscross?
Yeah.
Okay, now I was going to tell you about one more thing to help you understand this. And it's an example, but you have to be sitting up if you want to see it. Okay, are you ready? Here it goes. Now, this is a ship, and I'm going to use a little example. This I learned from Dr. Peter Kreeft, who's a famous teacher. He said, if you want to think about the human person, you can use an analogy of a ship. All right? So over here, this guy's got a telescope, and he's the navigator, okay? Which means he's trying to figure out where to go, and he's trying to figure out the best plan, okay? And the navigator helps to speak to this guy who's at the front of the ship. What's he do?
He's the captain.
Oh, you got to raise your hand though, remember? I saw Juliana.
He's the captain.
He's the captain. That's right. So he makes decisions for what to do with the ship, doesn't he? And so in this analogy, you learn that the navigator, he looks ahead, tries to find out the best plan, and then who does he have to talk to? Raise your hand. I saw Lydia.
The captain.
The captain, to tell the captain and inform the captain of the best decision. This is very similar, you guys, of the human person, because our intellect is like the navigator who's helping our captain, which is the will, to make good decisions for our whole body and for our soul. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So what part of us has to speak to the will? What part of us has to speak to the will to make good decisions? Juliana?
The intellect.
The intellect, that's right. And then who makes the decisions in this analogy, Lydia?
The will.
The will, good job. Now, the very last thing I want to teach you is that the intellect, point at the intellect again on your body, and point at the will. Are those closer to heaven, or are the passions and the senses closer to the heavens? Which ones are closer? Jude.
The
intellect
and the will.
and the will, they're the closest to the heavens. So we share those with other rational beings, the angels, and they're very divine. But which are the closest to the earth? Which of the four that I taught you? Juliana?
The passion.
Yes,
And the loans.
the loins. That's the senses, right? The fact that we can sense things with our body. Those are closest to the ground, and so those are closest to the animals, not the angels, right? Because angels don't have bodies.
I thought it was the devil.
No, the devil tries to corrupt our intellect, our will, and everything about us. But God's given us all the tools in order to choose to know the good and to choose the good. Yes? You can go to the bathroom in just a minute, okay? So finally, remember what I taught you. Which one's first that has to know the good? Which one? Can you remember? Do you remember? Go ahead.
Your intellect.
That's great. And which one helps us to choose the good? Juliana?
Well.
Your will, that's right. And we share that with the angels. And then the passions, feelings, right? You know, a dog could cry and whimper, can't it, when it's sad? So animals have the emotions or passions and the senses. Animals can feel things, okay?
intellect. No, it's not your intellect. It's your passions.
Yep.
Is it kind of like when you get butterflies in your tummy?
It's a very similar thing. That's the way Gustin taught us to remember it. Your body can help you remember. All right? Thanks for your help. Can you give me 5? All right. Good job.
That was